my friend, welcome back after a long time dormancy of you being on the show. I'm so happy to see your face again.
Yes, good to see you too. I'm excited to be back.
You know, it's funny. I feel like I have you on when I want just to like talk with a plant friend and have like a more conversational episode because I remember the last episode you came on was like what to do when a plant dies, which is also
Yeah.
kind of grim, but we had such a great conversation about that and this topic of like just how to make it easier, how to make 2026 be an easy year when it comes to plant care. I'm so excited to just kind of jam with you on this topic.
Me too. This is like the core of my identity as a plant parent is
Yes.
how do we make this easy?
Yes, you are the ultimate low maintenance plant parent because you are the ultimate succulent lady. So, for those who are new listeners here or might not know you, can you introduce yourself and Succulents and Sunshine and just like kind of the epic business and brand that you've built?
Yeah, so my main website is succulentsandsunshine.com and I have been teaching succulent care for 14 years now. It's been a long time. And
Literally wrote the book, The Idiot's Guide.
yes, yeah, which was so fun and crazy. But my approach to growing succulents has always been a little bit different because I've never lived in that like perfect Southern California climate. When I started, I was in Utah and I was growing succulents on a windowsill in a basement apartment. So it's
Yeah.
like not ideal at all.
Kind
But
of
I
like
figured
the
out,
worst, kind of like the worst scenario you could imagine to grow
yeah,
succulents.
absolutely. And I made a lot of mistakes and learned. So I just have been sharing all of the good, the bad, and the ugly along the way.
Yeah, yeah. And now you have succulents and sunshine. You're a inventor and a pot. You have a pot brand. You have an app. So what are all the branches? Like it's you've done a lot since you've been on the show, since we've last caught up. So what are the additional branches that are part of you and what you do now?
Yeah, so Cheerful Plants is our app that helps you keep track of everything that you're doing in your succulent or plant garden. For me, it was just a way to, again, make it easy. I don't like having to remember things, and so I have alarms set for everything. And so this was like a natural extension for me. I'm like, I want to store all the information about my plants so I don't have to remember it, but it's all there. So Cheerful Plants, and then you'd mentioned the inventor and pottery. So we created, I was going to say Cheerful Plants again. We created snappy pots. So they're just like little planters for succulents that you can add charms to. So like crocks, but with pots. And that's been really fun just because it's something fresh and different. And I love it because it's something you can do like to fuss with your plants when you don't actually need to care for them, right? So you can interact and you're not going to overwater or anything like that.
Particularly for succulents, it's like you're watering those plants and really caring for those plants so infrequently that you need other things to do. And I think crocks for planters is a great way to describe it because they have these holes and you can put different charms and words. You gave me a customized growing joy one when I saw you last week, and yeah, I mean the options are limitless. So how has your relationship, I mean, you've always been a low maintenance plant parent, but how has your relationship with plants changed over did you say 12 years you've been caring for them?
Yeah, almost 14. Yeah.
14? Yeah. What does that look like?
So I feel like ebb and flow is probably the like best overall description. And I think that's pretty normal that, your relationships with plants change over time. But when I started, I just had 3 plants. I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't even really know what made succulents different at the time. And so I had a lot of overwatered succulents in the beginning. And I went from those 3 to like 200 because I had ordered some cuttings online. And that was an adventure. And it's kind of like expanded and shrunk at different points of time. A big part of it just based on how much space I actually had for plants wherever it was we were living. But I feel like every time I talk to you, I bring up the plant number because that's something that just
Yeah.
resonated with me so much. Whereas when I lived in Arizona and we had space outside, I had several hundred plants. Like, well, I guess I still have several hundred plants, but in a different way.
Hmm.
But just plants outside, they were all over my patio, my front porch. all of that plus inside. And now I basically just grow like on my plant stand, and there are still several hundred plants on there, but it's much more contained and just like one space. I learned that for indoor growing, I love the idea of plants everywhere in my house. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually work for me. So I feel like I also go back and forth between like I love taking care of my plants and I really don't want to do anything. I don't want to water. I don't want to repot. I almost don't want to look at my plants. So I've been through a couple phases of that as well where they weren't bringing me joy anymore and I just kind of let it go. And what survived survived. And then, I'll find a new plant that's intriguing. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to grow this one. And it kind of revives my energy around caring for plants again.
Are you still only succulents or caring for houseplants now too?
I'm branching into other plants,
Right.
still very low maintenance varieties. So I have a couple ficus, like the rubber tree. That has been my favorite that I've experimented with. A friend of mine also sent me some gigantic Monstera deliciosa cuttings, and
Okay.
that has been fun, totally different. In case you're wondering, they can go like 60 days without water.
Yeah. They're
But
shockingly hardy.
yeah, because I always pictured houseplants as like watering every day or even just every
Yeah.
couple days. And 60 days might be a little long for those plants, but they made it. I also have a few pothos, and my sister gave me some spider plant cuttings, and those are not doing well. I think I needed like a fully rooted plant to start with those. But yeah, so I'm trying some other things, but still sticking to the very low maintenance, works in my space. I try not to push the boundary too far right now because I have more plants than I want to take care of.
Yeah, cuttings are hard when it's the first time you've grown that plant
Yeah.
because they're not established, and like if they were rooted in water and you receive them and then you're putting them in soil, or if the roots aren't extremely established, like I do feel like
Yeah.
cuttings, that's a shift that I've made in my plant parenthood. Is like when I was living in New York City, I was going to plant swaps. I was the cutting lady. I was trading plants with all my online plant friends. Like I was living for cuttings because also it's a great way to get free plants or to get rare plants at a way more affordable rate.
Yeah.
Now I've been able to see all those cuttings grow into like 8-inch plants, which is so cool. But also, like, if we're looking through the lens of ease, I'd rather just get the well established plant that is going to be easier to acclimate to my home and to live in my home. And, I do think there's a shift there. And now I'm like, I don't even want 4-inch pots of plants. Like, I want 6-inch or 8-inch pothos. Like, I don't want little plants with little roots. Like, I want a big established plant, and I want that almost instant gratification where that really wasn't my approach in the beginning. And I think it's important, you've been doing this for 14 years. I've been doing this for like 8 or 9 years. It's important to let yourself shift, let your interest shift, and let your approach to plants shift.
Yeah. Well, and with your transition to moving to Florida too, I feel like that would be a dramatic shift in what you're growing, where you're growing. Do you feel like that is part of your shift in how you're approaching plants, just that change in climate?
Oh my God, thank you for asking me that question. I'm getting interviewed. This is why I love having you on.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, the shocking part for me is when I found out I was moving to Florida because my husband got a job, I was like, oh my God, my plants are going to be so happy. Florida, the sunshine state, everything's going to be great. And then I quickly realized Florida has some of the darkest homes I've ever been in because it's so sunny and because it's so hot. All of the homes are built to conserve energy, and all of the windows have eaves over them, and all of the windows have window treatments that don't really let the sun in because the sun would heat it and then you'd have to pay for more air conditioning. So I quickly realized that even though the house we picked had like huge southern facing windows and like, oh my God, there's no light in my house. So I'm growing all of my houseplants essentially under grow lights here, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy. It's kind of like the opposite of what I was thinking. And you only learn these lessons sometimes by going through it. Or I'm growing them outside. I have a lanai, which is a covered patio, and I ended up putting a lot of my houseplants outdoors in my lanai, so they're protected from bugs and like critters, but I can grow things outdoors. And it's so funny. I just bought a house and I was talking to my friend Justin, who's a horticulturist in Miami, and I was like, the landscaping in my house is such a disaster, like my new house. And the soil in Florida is like all sand. I don't know what to do with it. He was like, you could literally plant your whole front yard with houseplants. Like
Awesome.
they're tropical plants. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, am I going to put some of my houseplants in my front yard? Like that would, like in ground, that would be so cool. Probably an enormous shock for them because they're used to growing indoors. But even if I buy new monsteras, like to have a hedge of monsteras in my front yard would be so cool. But yeah, like but there's been a huge transition there. So now I basically have all my houseplants in this green wall in my office and on one concentrated windowsill in my living room because I can't retrofit my rental house with a million grow lights. So it is
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting too how you were saying how now you only grow in your grow shelf because I think as you change homes, when I was in 500 square feet, I could have plants in every corner because it was only 500 square feet. I could literally see all the plants at once in my one bedroom apartment. But when you move into a house, you have rooms that you don't go into as much and then you forget those plants, you know? So it's interesting now that you've concentrated your plants in one area.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this is not like a permanent space for us either. And so, similar to what you were saying with your rental, like, I don't necessarily want to buy lights that fit this space or plants that fit this space because I mean, we'll probably be here a while longer, but the goes back to being easy, right? It's just
Yeah.
easy. I know I'm taking the plant stand with me wherever we go and it works. I'm used to it. And there's some flexibility with it. Like my rubber trees are next to the plant stand, so they're maybe not getting the best light. They're getting like some overflow, but it's working well enough. And so it's just, I don't know, adapting to what you have. But even when you were talking about New York being so different from Florida and Florida not meeting your like vision or expectation when you moved, I feel like I had the same thing when we moved to Arizona because everyone's like, "Oh, are you moving there so you can grow succulents better?"
Right.
And it's
Or
like,
plants.
I'm like, yeah, not really, but we'll see if they do. And it's just like the seasons flip flopped. Like I had to bring my plants in for the summer because it was too hot, and we'd move them out for the winter, and there almost wasn't enough light in the winter. I lost so many plants though.
Yeah.
It was just crazy trying to figure that out. And I think that's why I love the plant stand indoors is because it doesn't matter where I go. The care for it's going to be roughly the same. Like our humidity might go up and down or temperature, but it's much more controlled.
Yeah, that's the beauty of grow lights. So we both mentioned ease. For me, 2026 is all about like ease and joy. I think the world is on fire. Everybody is like burned out and overstimulated. No matter what side you're on, no matter where you live in the States or not, like it's tough out there. And plants really do need to be our tool for wellness, our tool for coming back to ourselves, our tool for joy. And I think coming out of the pandemic, where there were collectors and IKEA grow houses and fancy soil mixes and fancy water mixes and everything had to be like this fancy, like I'm gonna make my specific thing for these plants or whatever. I'm kind of like throwing all of that out the window, and I feel like you are too. Is that the sense that you're getting? You host a community where you're interacting with a lot of plant parents as well. Like, is that the vibes you're getting?
Yeah. So I used to have a major soapbox about soil. I use Bonsai Jack's Gritty Mix for 95% of my succulents. It works for me. I love it. And therefore, I basically told everyone else, like, this is what you've got to use for succulents. And I have no soapbox about soil in that way anymore. It's just like, even within our community, it's been fascinating to see everyone just makes up their own soil a different way and they make it work for them. And some plants do better, some plants don't. Like I run into that too. But I feel like it's more personal and less like, cookie cutter's not quite the right word for it, but I just feel like we're just adapting to what works for us instead of following this mainstream, here's exactly what you should be doing kind of prescription. And just focusing on what works for you, finding what works for you, which takes some experimenting and some dead plants and things along the way. But I do feel like the shift is a lot more toward like, whatever works for you, just keep doing it. And learn from other people with watering, especially. That's something that has changed for me a lot, even just in the last few months, where I've learned from some of our club members, like different ways they're watering that's so much easier. And I've changed the shelving on my plant stand to make it easier. So I do just feel like the shift is more toward enjoyment and focusing on things that bring you happiness versus like doing all of the things exactly right and having just the right, I don't know, tool or this or that to make it perfect.
Yeah. And then I'm going to contradict myself because I'm also thinking of a couple people that I know. And I'm like, it's either, I'd say like most of the people are exactly what we've said. It's like, you know, something that was so interesting too. I feel like I'm saying this on every podcast I've been on, but we were both just at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. And something that I was blown away with, because I've gone there 3 years and their garden installations, they do 20 huge garden installations every year. And they're always kind of a reflection of the year, like a reflection of they're a sign of the times. And like, there was so much whimsy in so many of the installations this year. Like there was so much fairy, like ethereal, magical, woodland, forest thing. Like I think everybody's looking for that escape and that like ease and release.
Yes.
Or I feel like people are going on the other side and like everything is out of control. And so I need to be so in control of my plants, you know? Yeah. Where I also think that makes a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah. And I think that's where I started with my plant care was like, I want complete control.
Yeah.
And one might argue I still fit into that because that's why I grow in a plant stand. So I just eliminate all of the variables. But one of the trends I've seen, and this showed up in the winning garden at the garden show, was books and plants.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something new that's emerging. Like we have a local store that's a plant and bookstore combined, right? And it's this very cozy space. I do feel like it's people just trying to find comfort, to find like a calm space. And I think there's an element of the controlling side that gives you that comfort, right? And then there's also the softer side, like you're talking about with the whimsy and like, let's just have like really cozy couches that we can just stare at our plants, you know, and
let's be relaxed.
Yeah. So I think it's just feel good.
The book thing is interesting too, because it's like, publishing is kind of a dying industry, right? Like books are kind of dying because so many people are listening to audiobooks now or reading ebooks. But the fact that there is like this resurgence of interest in paper books, bookstores, there's that like nostalgia like for the good old days, which is I find extremely interesting, of like the good old days of my childhood when like I was a freaking nerd. Like I was a book, what's it called? A book nerd? I don't know.
Bookworm.
I was a bookworm. So I was thinking for this episode, like, I just want to chat with you about the different ways that we're approaching plant care through the lens of ease for 2026. That might look different than the ways that we used to, because I also totally used to be a mindful plant parent, used to be total helicopter plant parent, obsessed with everything. And now I'm like, good luck, guys. I'll see you in a week. I'll see it. You know, if you make it, you can stay. So for you, like, what you've talked about your number. So let's talk about your number. What does that plant number mean to you? And in 2026, how are you evaluating that to make sure that you're staying in the pocket of ease and joy?
So I can tell you right now, I'm just looking that up, I have 485 pots of plants.
Wow, Cassidy.
That's my literal number that I have.
Now, are a lot of these pots little because they're succulents?
Yes.
Like, are a lot of them 2-inch pots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have some on my plant stand. I have like nursery trays. You know, I don't know. They're like 9 by 15 or something, and some of those will have like 40 pots in them. So it is. A lot of them are small, and then the bigger pots also have a bunch of plants in them. So that number is a little deceiving. I mean, technically, I probably have like 600 plants, but that is too many for me. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to reduce that number. Part of how this came about was I just was dabbling in selling plants last fall on Palm Street in conjunction with Snappy Pots. And so I bought a bunch of
You're a sponsor
pots.
of the podcast.
So I was trying to like get plants to put in these pots. And so I had a bunch of plugs, and that's when my number really went up because I had
that'll do
all
it.
of these. Yeah. So I learned that I don't really enjoy that. I don't like growing plants to sell. If I have plants that are ready to sell, great. But I also got stuck with a bunch of plants after an event that was supposed to have 200 people. They only had 50 people show up. It was kind of a nightmare. So that was kind of where I got over. And it's like, I knew it, but I just still kind of let it happen. I wanted some certain plants, and so I ordered more. And now I've really tried to streamline my approach to care because I have too many. And then I'm trying to figure out which ones I'm letting go of. Am I just gifting them? Am I selling them? It's ridiculously hard to prune your collection. Like, I'm so attached. But that's really where my focus is right now, is like, okay, let's make sure they're all healthy. Let's eliminate some of these so I'm back to just the plants that I really like. And then I feel like I can propagate too, because I love propagating, but I don't want hundreds more plants. Yeah. But I want like the little project.
In trouble already.
It's so bad. So I think, just from what I have learned in the past, I think like 150 is my sweet spot with these, smaller plants I have. That's almost half of what I currently have though. So but it's just, I think the letting go being so hard, because like you've invested time, you've invested money. It's really hard to just like give away a bunch of stuff and find enough people that want that many plants. So
now, I want to talk about strategies for giving plants away, because I think that's very important and we can totally jam on that. But because you have so many plants that are like 2-inch succulents and like very small planters, and part of the overwhelm is having to water each pot. Can you get larger pots and group succulents together and make succulent arrangements so that is less maintenance if there are some plants you want to hold on to? Have you done that yet? Have you tried that?
Yeah, so it's interesting you point that out, because this is something that is a huge personal preference for me. I have found that when I have groups of plants in a larger planter, they don't do as well. The way I tend to care for them, they tend to do better in those smaller pots. So it's kind of a two-edged sword, right? Because I have more that I'm individually looking at, but I feel like as a whole, they thrive better when they're potted individually. So I do have some combinations, and there are some that I think I could go back and combine, and they would be better in a bigger pot than a smaller one. When I do combine them, I'm usually now very particular to combine like the same type of plant.
100%.
I don't mix things anymore unless I want to make like a really beautiful arrangement and I'm okay with it not lasting forever, or, pulling it out and separating them in 6 months to a year. So like I have a bunch of jade plugs right now, and those are really easy to just stick in a big pot, and you have this beautiful forest of jade plants. So I think that is part of it, like finding the right combination of bigger versus smaller pots. I think I've leaned toward individual pots more too, because I see so many beginners get a big beautiful pot of succulents at like Home Depot or wherever, and those are not really thought out in how the plants are combined, and so there's a lot of struggle to keep it looking nice. And so I just always go back to separate, but that is 100% part of what makes it challenging.
That's like one of my biggest pet peeves at the big boxes, or even florists too, where like you see a plant arrangement that's like a small philodendron and a prayer plant, 2 plants that have polar opposite watering schedules, and a succulent, and then they're all covered in moss. Like the whole soil is covered in moss to make it look nice and uniform. And like, yes, that's a beautiful pairing of foliage, but that succulent's going to turn to mush. The Maranta likely is going to crisp up because that won't get enough water. And maybe the philodendron will hang in there because it's hardy. But yeah, I totally hear you on that. What are some strategies that you're thinking about for the cull?
That's a good question. One that I'm working on, this is probably very specific to me, but it's most top of mind, is I have a succulent care course that we haven't actually sold for a while because it's also in our membership. And so one of my plans is I'm actually going to put together like a bundle of plants and offer the course. And then you can also get plants with it, because it's way more fun to take a course when you actually like have new stuff to go with it. So that I think is my biggest one. We also, with Snappy Pots, have done some local markets, and we have one coming up for Mother's Day. So I'm kind of prepping a few well thought out arrangements, small groupings that we can sell there. I've actually done a surprising number of sales on Facebook Marketplace, which is super doable for anyone. It's not like you have to have some platform or an audience. And that's been really fun. I've connected with some great people just through them coming to my house to buy, oddly, like $10 worth of plants.
Yeah.
It's small chunks at a time, but that's been really fun. I also will frequently gift plants and pots in our like local Buy Nothing group. It's one of my favorite things if I'm gifting
I
plants.
love that.
Yeah, I love doing it there because everyone. Are you familiar with Buy Nothing groups?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I love the community environment of the Buy Nothing group. In our house, it's a verb. We BNG things. So
I
it's
love
like,
that.
I'm going to BNG some plants.
Stephanie Rose, who's a garden author, just came out with this great book called The Wild and Free Garden, and it's all about free gardening, like how to build your garden for free. And one of her huge things is the Buy Nothing groups and how you have to show up if you're going to take. You have to give if you're going to take. So if you have extra succulents laying around, like what an awesome offering for that group, so that you're almost paying it forward for when someone else offers it, you're going to feel fine taking it because you're like, well, I contributed to this group and now I get to benefit down the line for it. So I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
When we moved from Arizona to Utah a couple years ago, I had so many like big pots of plants outside that I wasn't going to bring with me because I knew like our environment just wouldn't work for it. And there was, I don't know, it was just so fun. I posted in the Buy Nothing group like, hey, I have these plants left. If you want some, come take some. I had a big grow box that was just gorgeous. I had tried to sell it on Marketplace, but it's just a hard thing to sell. It was so specific. But there was a woman who like went above and beyond in helping us with our move. I really didn't know her aside from the Buy Nothing group. And I ended up gifting that to her. Cool. And that is still like one of my favorite like happy memories is how excited she was to get this and how excited I was for it to go to a good home, where someone's going to appreciate it. Yeah.
Totally. And yeah, it doesn't have to end up in the landfill. And that's actually interesting because I feel like I have had medium success with Facebook Marketplace in terms of like selling my own stuff. I have found some great stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes like the thing you think is going to sell doesn't, but not just stopping there. Still trying to make it work and give it to someone whose day you're going to make. What are some other things so I love this culling. I'm curious what my cull will look like in moving to my new house. I actually don't think I'm culling, but I think I'm only getting big plants, like
that.
6 feet plants, because I'm going to do my house in biophilic design. So plants are a huge aspect of biophilic design, but like, forget cuttings. I'm like, I want a 6-foot Norfolk pine, like in my living room. Like I want a freaking Christmas tree in my living room. So
that's such a contrast, right? Because I don't want big plants. And so it's like, oh no, wait, this one's too big. It's got to go. So I love that both work, right? It just depends on you and where you're at.
Right. And what season of life you're in. Because I would have, after living in rentals for 5 years, like big plants are nightmares because you're moving, right? If you're in a rental, you're moving eventually. Yep. So what are some other things that we can focus on to call in more ease when it comes to plants? I think culling is huge. I think we both have talked about leaning into what our current plant parent personality is or our current plant care lifestyle. And like, if you used to be the control freak, but you're in a season now where like, you don't give a shit about what soil you're recommending, you have to lean into where you are currently. You have to let go of the shame of, ugh, but I'm not this anymore. Like you have to let yourself grow and move into this new season. And then you have to adjust your sales, like depending on that, whether it's culling your plant collection. For me personally, like I'm growing it in a lot more self-watering planters these days. I've hated self-watering planters. Like I've outwardly spoken about how self-watering planters don't work for me when I was a mindful plant parent. And now I find they're some of the only planters I'm bringing home because I'm solo maintenance now. I'm finding it's like the only way I can keep my plants alive is like if I have some help, So how is that manifesting for you?
So 2 things for me that come up for that are similar to you moving to self-watering planters. My approach to watering and like the setup of my plants has really shifted. So initially when my husband built this plant stand, we had just some shallow trays that became the shelves for the stand. And over the last few years, I've noticed like when I water everything deeply. And so I get water that's like standing on the trays. For the most part, it hasn't been a problem. But I switched to these like 2-inch deep nursery trays now. And so that way I can just come in with this electric sprayer that someone in our club recommended to me. And I just come in and like soak everything.
Nice.
And then I extract all the excess water when I'm done. And I actually use it on other plants as long as I don't have any pests. And it has made watering so much faster because I'm not worried about like water, like making sure I'm soaking it all the way, but also not using too much water because I have to go upstairs to get water. Like all of the water in our house is softened except for the kitchen, which is upstairs. And so
Wait,
like,
so
going up and down the stairs.
can the electric water suck up the leftover water too? Or you're
No.
pouring it?
So I'm either pouring it or using a turkey baster or my upcoming experiment is I'm actually going to put a hole in the bottom of the trays with a like silicone plug. And that way I can just like pull the plug and let it drain back into my container. I'm hopeful that works because that would also save me a lot of time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that has helped a lot because even I was behind on watering and then I went to the garden show and then I was more behind. But I've spent 6 hours watering plants this week and it's only Wednesday. Like I got through everything though.
Yeah.
Like knowing that it takes me 6 hours to water my entire collection, basically, I have to really, that's why I'm looking for ease, right? So the other part that goes along with that is I'm only growing plants that I know work for me and that are low maintenance. So that's why I was pleasantly surprised when these monsteras went like 60 days without water because I do that to my succulents all the time. I frequently will say like I'm like a passive aggressive plant waterer. Like, okay, I'm going to be on the ball and I'm going to water, when they need it, roughly every 2 to 3 weeks or whatever. And then I go like 2 months. I'm like, I should probably water. That'd be a good idea. So I'm not doing anything that's super fancy. Everything's easily replaceable. And it's all stuff that tolerates that inconsistent watering frequency. Like I don't have high maintenance plants anymore because I just live vicariously through other people that have them. And I love the ones I have. And I think I love them more just because they work for me.
Yeah. I think too, just you mentioning, you upgraded your tools so that your tools make sense for this season of life. Like I'll never forget when I went from my tiny little watering can to a 3-liter watering can. And that 3-liter watering can by Modern Sprout was like my favorite product I had for years. Then I graduated to I don't know, it's gallons. It's one of those pump watering sprayers. And the pump is still annoying, but it's got the hose and I can like reach with the hose to get my green wall plants. That has made watering so much easier. And now on Instagram today, I saw Blossom Effect, who is a plant creator, had found an electric one that's a backpack. And you fill the backpack with water and then it has a battery, and so you don't have to pump it, and it's like a continual spray. And I'm like, oh, I'll spend $30 on that because that's going to bring me so much ease and so much joy to like put a backpack on to water my plants. Like that's hysterical.
So that's similar to what I just switched to, like literally a week ago. So mine's the electric sprayer, and then it has like a 30-foot hose on it.
Nice.
And you just stick it into a bucket or whatever. And so I have this 5-gallon jug. So now I don't have to go up and down the stairs as much. But yeah, I just put it in there. You click it on and you just water everything and it comes out.
The best.
Yeah, because I was using like a 1-gallon pump sprayer. And like you said, that was a major upgrade from like my little squeeze watering cans and whatnot. But not having to pump it, it feels like really lazy and silly to say, but it's so nice. And it's quieter too. I don't know.
And when you think about it, if this is your lifelong hobby or if this is the hobby that you're doing all year, like you're watering your plants. I mean, you're watering your plants 2 to 3 weeks. That's a long time for most plant parents. Most plant parents are watering their plants, every week to 10 days, if not less than that. So I don't know. I do think it does make a difference. And if you can find the affordable things, and then you can also sell and or give away the old watering cans that don't work for you. So your husband doesn't yell at you about being a hoarder.
Right?
Not that I would know.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I think that having the tools that work for you in the moment, I think really can make it a lot easier as well.
Yeah. Because when I had plants spread out through my house more, it made more sense to use even like the 1 gallon sprayer or a little watering can. Or like my kids have a couple plants in their room, and so they just use the little squeeze bottles. And it's perfect because they're only watering a couple, and the sprayer that I'm using would probably get water everywhere and be a little
Yeah,
messy.
overwhelm them.
So it does, I don't know. That's why I think like personal is what just keeps coming to mind with all of this, is like the plants that work for you, the watering setup that works for you, the lighting that works for you, just finding what fits wherever it is you're at mentally, physically, all that. It's just, that's what makes things easy, is when it feels like it's a natural extension of whatever you're doing.
Something that just came to mind too, and something that I have to do before I move is, and calling myself a hoarder. Maybe you don't need to cull your plants, but maybe you need to cull your plant accessories and plant things. Because I have a side of my garage. I went to Costco and I bought the big Costco shelving units. And I have so many terracotta pots that I'll never use because I'm using self-watering planters. I'm not using terracotta. Or if I'm using terracotta, it's more aesthetic, but whatever. I have plenty of terracotta pots that I'm not going to use. I have fertilizer that is 6 years old in bins that is expired, that I'm never going to use, but like it's just in my garage. And my husband keeps being like, "Hey, Maria, you're pregnant. You're getting more pregnant by the day. We're moving in your eighth month. So like, can you deal with this now? Because the more pregnant you get, the harder this is going to be. But like, we should not pay to move all of this expired fertilizer, to our new house." So I think, and energetically, like every time I walk into my garage, it's just like, that's my like very crammed, overwhelming section of my garage that has all my plant stuff that is not organized and like is not bringing me joy right now. So that's a call that I think I'm going to do as well, is not my plants, because I'm probably going to add to my plant collection, but like I want to really streamline everything that I have, and then also the organization, so that when I go to my next house, I can reset up the Costco shelving, but like make it organized and appealing and easy, so that when I need something, I can get it, and I'm not like, fishing through tubs that have like things I'll never use, like weird things, weird like promo. I was at like a horticulture industry show and I got like a weird branded like promo watering can or something, like stuff that I'm just never going to use. But I'm like, well, I can't throw it away. Maybe I can, or maybe I can donate it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that, because I had a cupboard that was like that. It was just like throw all the extra stuff in there. But even now, just thinking about, the way that I switched my plant shelves, I am really switching to where I'm either using like an artistic pot, like a handmade piece of artwork for my pottery that I bought from someone that I know or whatever. Or it's like a really, really basic pot. Like with our snappy pots, we have a liner that goes in the decorative pot. And so most of my plants are actually in those liners until I want to display them. And so I've really shifted that aesthetic too, right? Where it's like you're saying, I actually don't use round pots anymore. That's kind of a weird thing, but I really like square pots. And so most of my round pots are going away. A lot of the terracotta pots are going away, and just leaning into what's working for me right now. A friend of mine has a decluttering site. Her name is Sarah Mueller. It's the Decluttering Club. And one of my favorite rules that she talks about for decluttering is the 20-20 rule. If you can replace if you can replace it in 20 minutes or less for $20 or less, get rid of it.
Oh my God, that's half my shit, because I have all these like $1.99 terracotta pots. And like if I take those to my Goodwill, I'm about to make someone's day with those terracotta pots, like, because there's so many of them. Or like if I call up my new plant friend who like I'm trying to become better friends with, and I'm like, hey, I've got all these things, like, do you want any of them? Like, I'm gonna look so cool. So and that fosters connection. So yeah, I think the culling is important. I think that understanding your plant number and knowing if you have to cull or if you're going to grow, where you're going to strategically grow. Another thing I wanted to mention, because I wanted to call out, because we both have kind of mentioned this, is also understanding for this moment of your life, like where are your plants in your house and does it make sense for you? So since I've been in Florida, I can't put grow lights all over my rental. If I put plants in my guest room, which I never go into, they will die because I never go in there. So like all my plants are concentrated on my green wall, on this one very beautiful windowsill that I have, or in my lanai. And then pretty much throughout the rest of my house, I have little cuttings in water that like I know will die eventually, but it's more just for that like biophilic thing.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that you have all your plants in your grow shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this kind of relates, but as you were talking about that, we've maybe alluded to this, but stop buying stuff. Right? like, so
Stop
the
it.
hardest, right? Well, and I think that's ultimately the issue, right? Is like, there's this new plant. And I love in theory this idea of like, you know, if you want to make me happy, take me to a plant store and a coffee shop, right? Or whatever, like that reel that just goes around. Yes. But if you're already feeling overwhelmed by your plants, don't buy more.
Yeah, stop it.
And it's just like, or, you know, be okay with letting them die. I liked that with your cuttings, right? It's like, I'm taking a cutting because I want it like a cut flower.
Exactly.
But,
in my bedroom, particularly, like my bedroom's so dark and I just have basically vases with cuttings of pothos that I'm looking at like a longer floral bouquet. And I'll either transfer them when they root or I'll just like kind of let them yellow and die eventually because I have plenty of pothos, you know? And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like with kind of going back to your original question though, with like the keeping it all in one place, I really enjoy on Instagram, like following people who have plants everywhere. And this is something I've practiced a lot in therapy is like duality, right? Like I can love that they have plants everywhere, and I can love that mine are all contained, and I can be content with that. And so I really don't view it anymore as like, I guess, comparison. We're like, oh, I wish I could have plants everywhere. Like, I really don't wish I could have plants everywhere. I'm really happy with mine in one spot. But I love looking at pictures and watching how people operate with plants all over their house. Because maybe you will do that at some point. You know, like you were talking about with your new house, that's a different approach. And you can be ready for that.
I think you're so wise to like let it just be an aspirational follow instead of I'm a failure if my home doesn't look like yours.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there are people who follow you that like might feel like, gosh, I'm a failure because my succulents are never going to look like hers. Or people are going to look at my green wall and say, gosh, I wish I could have that green wall and I don't. Like you can use social media for that, or you can just use social media to be like, oh my God, she has so many plants. That's so fun. Like that's so cool to watch how she styled them. And maybe in the future I'll do that too, but like I don't need to right now.
Yeah. And I've even run into that, like comparing to past self, so to speak. Like, there are days that I miss my Arizona garden, like going out and sitting on the patio, being surrounded by my succulents. And it's, you know, I don't know, it's just that idea of being present, right? Like, I am really content with what I have, and I would be content with less. And and that was a really fun point in time when we had that really beautiful patio space. So I think it's just compassion is something that's come up a lot for me in the last few years, is just like, just being really nice to yourself. Like, it doesn't do you any good to be like, oh man, I killed that plant, I'm such a terrible person. Like, what does that do? It's not fun.
Literally. Nothing. And like,
be nice.
There's enough in the world to make you feel bad. There's enough going on. Like, don't add more for yourself. Like, you should be the nicest person to you right now because it's hard out there in 2026 for a lot of people. You've created now something also with the ease is like, I know you kind of behind the scenes you created an app like for yourself because you're a nerd and like techie. And now this app is in the real world, available for people to use. I'm curious, and I know that that app is centered around ease. So tell us a little bit more about Cheerful Plants and why you're kind of going all in with it this year.
So the Cheerful Plants app, we actually came out with it in 2020, and it's just kind of gradually evolved. But in the last year, my husband has actually taken over the development of it, which means we have a lot more like control to make it exactly what we want when we want. And it we did build it out of like, this is what I want for me, because I didn't quite find anything that was really centered around my plants and how I'm grouping them or how I'm organizing them. You commented I'm very nerdy, and it's so true. Like, I love numbers. Like, I've had a spreadsheet to track my money since I was 15. Like, I love it. And so this is like my version of that for plants, where I want to have a place where I have all the names of my plants, if I want to know the names. Or if I know them, I want like a photo history. So it kind of has that scrapbook effect. And then also to be able to see like when I watered last and how often on average am I actually watering these plants. I don't know about you, but I have a terrible memory when it comes to, I think I watered this like 3 days ago, and no, it was actually like 2.5 weeks ago. Or, or the opposite, thinking like, I don't know, I've watered these so long ago, and really it was a few days ago. And especially with a lot of plants, I'm not checking anymore to see if the soil is dry. I'm not like sticking my finger in. I'm looking at the plants to see if they need water. But with the app, it gives me this baseline where I can see, okay, on average, I'm watering this plant every 17 days. Today's day 17. Looks like the leaves are still full. I'm going to give it another couple days. So just using it as like a guideline to decide whether or not I'm actually going to water my plants. But that way I don't have to analyze everything every day and remember what I've done. So from a more like concise standpoint, the app, all you have to start is just a photo of your plant. And then you can set a reminder schedule if you want for watering, fertilizing, repotting. You can even create custom schedules. Like if your plant's in a window and you rotate it once a week or whatever, you can set a reminder for that. Okay. So you set the reminders based on your care schedule. A lot of the other apps out there start with identification and then like kind of creating a schedule for you. And the biggest complaint I see with those is it's just wrong. So many times.
Yeah, the AI like is trash when it comes to ChatGPT is like ruining plant care because it can't search validated info. Like ChatGPT will tell you to water your plants with ice cubes, or like it'll just like it'll identify the plants wrong. Half those plant identification apps don't work, and it gives you wrong information because it's sourcing from blogs that have put out wrong information.
Yeah.
I hate it because it's like setting up new plant parents for failure because they're just not getting the right answer. I have people write me all the time being like, I asked ChatGPT and it told me to do this. And I was like, it told you to do what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's so much, like you get bad advice from people too, but usually there's a foundation for it. And I think especially me coming from like over a decade of teaching people about succulent care, there's so much nuance to it that you just can't create like this cookie cutter that works for everyone. You can start a baseline, right? Like if I'm selling plants at a market, I'll usually say like you might water this about every 2 to 3 weeks, but here's how to tell if it's getting too much or too little, and then adjust from there. Because if you live in a humid climate, you're going to water a lot less than my super dry climate here. So we're actually trying to train our own AI to be more accurate. But that's my biggest like frustration with the apps that are out there right now is I just don't feel like the information is good and it sets people up for failure. And so this is really geared towards your own garden and your processes. And then like, I don't actually have watering schedules set for my plants. I just go based off of the averages of when I've watered. So if I don't water very often, the averages aren't great because they've been too long. But I love being able to see like the history of what I've done, be able to keep like a photo history, like I said, of progress over time. So I had some people
cool that the photos can all be in the app. I mean, how many times have you been at a party when you meet someone and they like take their phone out and they're scrolling to try and show you photos of their plants? That's like
right?
literally happened to me like
Yeah.
every party I've gone to in the last 3 weeks.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then with this, like you just pull up the app, you can search for the name,
Hmm.
or like if you know where it's located in your house, you have a lot of different ways that you can organize the plants within the app. And that's something that was really limiting to me in other apps that I tried, is like I want to be able to put in where I bought it, and like that I propagated it from a leaf. I don't want that to be the main info, but I want it to be
Hmm.
there and be able to search for that. So
What
there's
if
a
I have a what if I have a plant that I've never cared for before and I want to use your app? Can your app like auto populate basic watering if I've never had a snake plant before and I put snake plant in, or the entire app is rooted off of your specific established watering practices?
So it is geared more towards like your established watering practices.
Okay.
Haven't cared for that plant or you haven't put it in there before, the default is every 7 days, just because it's
Okay.
kind of a safe-ish average. But that is actually something that we're working toward, is finding a way for like to give you that baseline, right? Of okay, if I put in a snake plant, I'm probably gonna water it every 2 weeks or so, maybe longer, but also indicating like this is a baseline. Check out, keep your eye out for these things to make sure it's not overwatered. So there are names that are like pre-filled in the app. So if you start typing the genus, it'll pre-fill most of the popular
Okay.
like plant names. But the care info isn't there yet. We're trying to figure out that
Well, that's
balance,
cool
right?
because it's really an app that's geared for plant parents who have established collections. Like,
It is.
and like down the line, I'm sure you're going to build it out to be more beginner friendly. But
Yeah.
a lot of us who have, if you have 350 houseplants the way you do, like, you don't need an app to tell you when to water your plants. You just
Yeah.
need an app to help you track and make sure that you don't forget? So it is kind of like a 2.0. It sounds like kind of a 2.0 product for like the plant parent that already knows a thing or two, and then will use it to gain their own data.
Yeah. Yes. So I would say that's definitely accurate. The way that like our current users have kind of come about is like they've followed my YouTube channel or they've been on my
Right.
email list. So they've got the basics of care down and now they're documenting what they're doing. So then when they email me in a couple weeks and say, "Hey, this plant died," like here's some pictures of it, if they were that studious, or at least this happens in our club where they're like, okay, the app says I've watered this every 16 days and it looks like this. Then I can say,
Mm.
oh, okay, this needs more water, this needs less water. And when I say more or less, I mean frequency. That's
Right.
the other thing that, sorry, as a sidebar, is like, it doesn't matter how much water you pour on the plant. Like, you just soak the plant. One of the apps I was using, just kind of testing out, it's like, put zero point 0.8 cups of water
I
on
know.
this every 3 weeks. And I'm like, what? Like, you don't even
That's
know how
not
big
our
my
that's
pot
not our
is.
2026 ease vibe. I am not pulling
No.
out my measuring cup to water my succulent. No, not
Yes.
not
Not at
in this
all.
not in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
excited for you. Well, I've downloaded the app. I can't wait to play around more with it. Do we
Yeah.
have a link or promo or anything for the audience should they want to try and play with it?
Yeah. So if you go to cheerfulplants.com/Maria, you can download the app. And
Cool.
then it's free for 5 plants and it's $2.99 a month or $30 a year for
Yeah.
any more than 5 plants. It's
Two
and
ninety $3. What's $3 anymore?
$3. Right? Save one plant a month.
Yeah,
Not killing it.
that's
And
amazing.
and the whole, like, if you start with just 5 plants, like every feature is available to you for those 5 plants. So it's not limited in that sense. It's just like all the features are there if you want to add more
You
plants.
can get a feel if you really want to add because it's time
Yeah.
consuming to put all your plants in an app. So it's nice that you
Yeah.
can kind of feel it out and then be like, okay, I'm going all in. I'm gonna
Yeah.
upgrade to the $3
Gonna go.
subscription. Well,
Yes.
this is so cool. I'm excited to play around with it, and I'm just excited for you. You've been around for so long, and it's so fun to see how you and your business and your brand keep evolving. And it was so fun to hug you in person last week.
Yes.
Once more, just for everyone, obviously cheerfulplants.com/Maria, but where else can everyone find you if they want to join your succulent club or, learn from you or maybe buy your succulent course and a little bundle of succulents?
Yes. If you go to just succulentsandsunshine.com, you can sign up for our emails on the homepage there. I'm basically Succulents and Sunshine everywhere, Instagram, Facebook. And then, whenever this course bundle comes out, the email is like the best place to be for me. That's where all the updates go, and we'll share on social too.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks, friend. So great talking to you again.
Yeah. Thanks, Maria.
Growing joy.